Hi, my name is Jennifer Sherman, and I'm with Parsons Transportation Group, and I did a traffic engineering study on this site. So what we did, I'll just kind of brief you on what we did, and then if you have questions, you can answer them. I'll answer them. Sorry, you can ask them and I'll answer them. Anyway, the first thing we do is we actually go take a look at another school in the area and see how many people are actually driving their kids to school. And then we talk to the people at Chicago Public Schools and confirm that those numbers are pretty close to correct. Chicago Public Schools believes that 10% of the students arrive by automobile. So that would be 90 students. When we did our, informal count, we just go out one day and observe traffic at Boone, and we found it was more like 80, 85. So we went with the higher number. 90 students arrived, or 90 vehicles. I don't know. Some of the cars had 2 or 3 kids, but 90 vehicles showing up with kids, and that's what we use in your study. We go out, we count the traffic at the intersection. So we did it in the vicinity of Whipple. We did Pratt and Whipple, and we did North Shore and Whipple, and then we did a few of the other ancillary intersections as well. Well, we do that in the AM and PM peaks, and we try to make that correspond with the time that the kids are going to be actually dropped off and picked up. So it should all make sense. Well, I'll just give you a couple of numbers. You can write them down if you want. Basically, on Whipple, south of North Shore Avenue, which is where the parent drop-off and pick-up location is. Could you put that slide up, Ariel? Thanks. You currently have 144 vehicles using that street in the AM peak, and you have 121 vehicles using that street during the PM peak. That is, your AM peak is 1 hour and PM peak is 1 hour. Okay. Peak.
When was that peak?
That peak is from 7:45 to 8:45 in the morning, and from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the evening.
Did you look at Pratt?
Yes.
Did you realize this is one way? So you have to come down Pratt to come down Whipple here.
Yes, and on Pratt you have 486 vehicles in the AM and 419 vehicles in the PM heading westbound. You have 424 vehicles in the AM heading eastbound and 448 vehicles heading eastbound in the PM.
How many days is that?
That is just 3 days. 3 days in May. No, we only count on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We never count on Mondays or Fridays or holidays because it skews the count. So, there's no school here. So then what we do is we take the 90 anticipated automobile trips and we add those to that. Now, we know these students are coming from Boone and Clinton because those are the overcrowded schools that have to be relieved. So we assumed a 50-50 split based on the information we were given. 50 of the 900 students were coming from Boone and 50% were coming from Clinton. So then we put them on the road, and then we do a traffic analysis. Well, we did a traffic analysis before, what it looks like out there now, and we do one after we put the vehicles on. Now, this is what's going to shock you guys, and it's not going to sound so good, but a one-lane roadway has a capacity for anywhere between 1,200 and 1,600 vehicles.
A day? Not
a day.
Street.
An hour. An hour.
You have making a left from one lane to one lane.
That is actually if they have stops too. It's over 2,000 if it's over 2,000 if they're not. Stopping for a stop sign. Right. Now this is just general traffic information. They don't do. Right. So what we did is we took a look at the intersection, the intersections that you have. The unsignalized intersection at North and Platte, at North Shore and Whipple, and we analyzed that with traffic analysis software that looks at the capacity and the number of vehicles that are using that and how many vehicles are making turns and if there's parking nearby and so forth and so on. We went through and the analysis revealed that basically an average vehicle has to wait approximately 7 seconds to make that westbound left turn.
On North
That
Shore?
doesn't add up to 1,200.
Those are two one-ways. The problem isn't
That
there.
is
The problem
correct.
is at Pratt and Whipple. And the problem you
All
have
right.
there is a massive, because of the one-way streets, most of the traffic will come that way. Will come down Pratt and down Whipple.
I'll get to your question in a second. Let me just kind of finish up here. Anyway, we analyze those, and what the software does and what the capacity analysis, like the way it's revealed and the way it's the most easily digested, is it gives it a letter grade, an A, B, C, D, E, or F. D is considered perfectly acceptable in all circles.
So then why were we looking for alternative routes?
All of your intersections are A now. They will all be A in the future with this school. We did not consider a special event. We only looked at your average AM and PM peaks.
Yeah.
Is that study available?
I couldn't see the exact numbers. I was sort of sitting all the way in the back, but it appeared to me there was a slide there about the growth graphic, the demographics at the beginning of the presentation.
From 900 to 1,000.
Right, it was growth. Okay, that's a growth of less than over 85 kids. Even to take some off of Clinton and some off of Boone, does that call for anything so drastic as a 900 student school? That's one. And just getting back to what you said before, I'm curious to know when you said about 90 kids or would get by car, was that research at the public school done during January or May? Because you're going to have a much higher number in January. And if I could just say someone they wanted to know that what they do in other schools, I could say, well, my girls went to school, the entire carpool is done off street. Okay? And there's less than 900 kids. There are it's about 60 parking spots for teachers at that school, and all the carpooling is done off street.
Okay. I can't
So
answer
that
your question
other schools.
about the parking lot or the potential off-street drop-off, but I can tell you we did do the traffic counts in May. That's when we did them. We didn't do them in January.
Where's the question about the demographics?
During January. January told us that more people are coming out.
I would assume so, yes.
Here's the microphone.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I get. Well, so the total number of public school students that live in the combined Boone-Clinton area is about 2,700. It seems to be on its way toward a higher number. And so, yes, right now there's a shortage of at least 550 seats between the two schools relative to the total number of public school students that live in the area. So
Is that you say live in the area? Do they go to those schools?
yes, well, the majority of the public school students that live in this area do go to either Boone or Clinton. That's a very high percentage. And just the combined enrollments of Boone and Clinton is, closing in on 2,400. So the sort of the idea here is, there will come a day when there will be three very efficiently utilized and not overcrowded schools with the addition of this to accommodate a public school student population that is equal to the capacity in the three schools.
But do some information from the children, or are they being bused in from other?
No, ma'am. These are neighborhood students that we're referring to. I'm referring exclusively to the total number of neighborhood kids that live in this area, which is virtually equal to the attendance of those schools.
Yes, it's John Hunter. I live in the Parkside Estates for several years now. I received a notice in the mail just a few weeks before the October 21st Zoning Commission meeting, and it was either the second or third business day after I received that notice that I first called the city. I was passed off a number of different individuals, none of whom could answer whether there was any chance of the date being moved so that it would not be Yontif, so we would have a chance to have any say in this process. And then I called Alderman Stone's office. I recall both offices. That's the one in Road and the one downtown. I recall the messages, both of those offices. So my question is for you, Alderman Stone, in your role ostensibly to represent why you didn't even have the courtesy to call me back, explain to me why ramrodded down our throat, and how you allowed that meeting to be set for Yontif.
Well, the answer, of course, is I had nothing to do with the setting of the meeting. That's set by the chairman of the Committee on Zoning.
I'll allow it to stand. Yes, that was my question. Allow it.
And to move the meeting from from that particular date would have meant to completely throw the schedule off, and well, you can sit there and laugh at this, but it means it would have put the school back into the. It would have means that, for instance, their bidding process wouldn't have taken place for two additional months.
Right.
Yeah, but you also had an opportunity to appear before the Plan Commission. There wasn't one hearing, there were two hearings. There was a hearing before the Plan Commission in which absolutely no one showed up. Now, two people did show up on Yontiv.
I did show up. I got there late. I'm sorry I worked. I couldn't get out.
Well, I'm sorry, but that meeting is in the afternoon. The hearing before the city council was in the morning. But I was at both meetings, and the two people did show up at the meeting that was held before the city council. Both of whom were observant, and both of whom indicated that they were very unhappy and wanted the matter continued because it was held on Yontiv. But in the meantime, I indicated, look, the absolute same result would have occurred. Even had it been held a month later, the absolute same result would have occurred. It was going to pass regardless. Let's face facts. The question of whether or not it would be passed would be a question of whether I favored it or not. I favored it. So it didn't matter if 20 people showed up in opposition.
So you're saying our feedback doesn't count at all? Because you're saying it would make no difference at all.
Would it have made a difference if when could we have said,
look,
no, we don't want the school here?
Early on in the process, maybe 7 years ago, but look, objecting to the school when I had students meeting in the hallways and students meeting on stages, and when I had overcrowding in the schools, would not have done. The only objection you could have to the new school had to do with the overcrowding at Boone-Clinton. Could you object to it because of its location? No, and I'll tell you why. There was no other location. You know, all of you object to it being on Whipple because you live there. Well, that's.
And it's not a good spot.
Excuse me. You all asked for me to answer you. Now let me answer you. Now this is a symptom that we come across in zoning all the time. The symptom is called "not in my backyard," and this is you laugh all you want, but that's what it's called. Nobody wants it in their backyard. Everybody says put it somewhere else. I looked for a spot to put this for 5 years. It was only by good fortune that we found this site. I tried to move the site to Kedzie. I couldn't do it. If I could, I would have.
Excuse me. The housing monstrosities behind my house at 6618 wasn't built till 3 years ago. So 5 years ago, the lot was empty. The lot was completely empty, and it was for sale. It was sold for $3.2 million, I believe.
Yeah.
That was the price of it. You didn't want to put it down. You put it. One school
look,
that is in a residential block.
Not
in an area, a block.
Do you know that most schools are built on residential blocks?
No. Most schools are built on their own block.
Most schools are built on residential blocks. Now tell me. It's not true. What's Washtenaw? What's Washtenaw? What is Washtenaw? What is Fairfield? And every one of 3 of the 4 are one-way streets. You got 4 streets here too. I can't help it. You have 4 streets. Look, it was the only street available. It was the only lot available. Well, tell that to People's Gas, who said I can get. Well, I wish I could.
Wait 1 second.
Yeah, I know. Everyone wants my spot. So I'm not talking about the demographics of this thing.
What was the answer? How are we going to address it? A traffic, you just got a traffic answer, and you don't want to hear it.
Our concern.
Wait, sir. Let somebody else. You've asked.
All right. My name is Mickler. I live over here in Parkside. And I want to address, in fact, the traffic issues here. I don't think we've gotten inadequate answers, and here's why. The notion that only 10% of students, which supposedly is the city average, are going to be driven to the school is completely untenable. If you look at the map, we're on the edge of the map, first of all. Second of all, the area that's closest to the school is very heavily Orthodox Jewish, which is not going to send to the school. That's the point, and that's why people keep raising this issue. Not because we don't want to be part of the community, that we don't want to sacrifice at all for the good public schools. We're all very much in support of that. But the concern is, the area right around here these are not where the kids are going to live who go to the school. They're mostly near the edge. We're going all the way down to Peterson. Those kids are going to walk. Kindergartners are going to walk to school from Peterson. And the other thing that isn't being addressed is the fact that because of the one-way streets, North Shore Whipple turn, that's not the intersection that's a problem. The problem is over here on Pratt. The problem is the vast majority, because of layout and because of the one-way streets, the vast majority of traffic is going to come westbound on Pratt and is going to be looking to turn left onto Whipple. What's that going to do to the traffic on Pratt? What percentage of that? How?
Well, we can take the parking off of one side of the street. We can remedy that.
And my question.
Okay.
To complete the comment,
go ahead.
To get to the question, I've had a very small amount of experience in seeing what happens when private developers have projects. They want to put a movie theater or something like that into a mall. The degree to which they've got a traffic plan and come to the city with extensive studies and plans to explain exactly how it's going to happen. We come here to this meeting when this is all a done deal, and we're hearing we haven't looked at that yet. We don't know. We can change the way the streets go. We don't know about that yet. We've got enough parking spaces according to zoning, even though we admit that means 30 to 40 cars are going to be added to the street every day. My question is, what demographics of this neighborhood, things we've just described, were used in coming up with that 10% number and coming up with these traffic studies? Because it sounds worthless. Because 10% is a fantasy.
Go ahead, Moshe.
Bernie, you stand up and you say, well, my hands are tied. Is that development part of Chicago or not? Are you the vice mayor or not? Okay? Can you then tell these guys, hey, you will give us access to Kedzie, and if you don't get city services?
Who are you referring to?
Whoever it is that's holding up access to Kedzie. Because if you solve the access to Kedzie, I think most of these people will back off and not give you a problem.
How do you want that access to Kedzie? There are a number of ways we can give you access to Kedzie.
I don't really care.
Number one, let me tell you how I can give you access to Kedzie. Number one, I can make Whipple two ways.
Microphone.
I can make Albion two ways.
There's no alley on Whipple, so there's no place to park the cars.
I can make Albion two ways between Kedzie and
Microphone!
I can make Albion two ways between Whipple and Kedzie. This doesn't amplify my voice.
You're getting it on tape.
I can make Albion two ways between Kedzie and Whipple, which would give you access to Kedzie. Are you listening to what I'm saying? I can't give you access to the private subdivision.
Why not?
Because I can't. It doesn't make any difference. You have the same access through Albion. If I make Albion two ways between Whipple and Kedzie, you then have access to Kedzie.
Why don't you condemn some land?
And if I make Whipple two ways between Albion and Pratt, you then have access two ways on both streets. That then creates the problem on Whipple between Albion and Pratt. Look, I've faced these types of problems before, and I know how you solve these types of problems. As far as the individual plan developments, those are the way they are because of the amounts of monies they paid. They paid too goddamn much money for the properties to start with. And you're not going to change that. They failed. The owners who purchased that land failed miserably in trying to sell those properties because they paid too much money. Well, I'm just saying that they're not about to give you public access. Well, that's what I'm trying to solve, and this is why I'm giving you different alternatives.
And if Whipple becomes a two-way, it becomes very dangerous for the children to go to the parks back and forth. It changes the whole.
Well, I'm just you asked for alternatives. I'm trying to give you alternatives.
Why can't there be access to the school from Kedzie?
Because there is no access.
There's a fence along Kedzie
There
there.
is no access. You have private property between Kedzie and the school.
Land from people's gas. You can purchase a strip of land that.
There are buildings over there. You can't purchase. Look. Wait a minute. Understand this. You can't purchase land down the middle of their property and bisect their property. Let's be reasonable. You're trying to bisect their property.
You could congest our streets and
but is there an edge of their property that you could purchase land on?
I wish there were. But we're still examining that, and that's one of the reasons that I told you that I was examining the question of tying the parking lot. But then, you're creating new problems. How do I get from the school to Kedzie? You saw what you were talking about when we talked about the entrance into the parking lot. What you were talking about is going through a parking lot, and then you want to access through that parking lot. That's a dangerous thing. You want to go through a middle of a parking lot and use it as an access road. That is a dangerous thing you're talking about. You want to purchase millions of dollars worth of land to go to Kedzie. Now, it's nice to talk about those things, but those are not as easily accomplished. You're talking about the distance between the west end of the school property and Kedzie is something like 800 feet. Now, that's a long stretch of land. And there are buildings between there and Kedzie Avenue. The gas company road is there. The gas company road is there. They would completely affect. The gas company road is there.
For an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. So what? Hey, that.
Only 10% of the kids.
I will be happy. I will be happy to meet with People's Gas. I'll be happy to try and explore these things. But I'm just telling you, what I'm telling you is this. It is not an easy solution. It is a very difficult solution. And this is something we've worked on before, and will attempt to continue to work on it. I wish I was able to accomplish originally what I wanted to do, and that is move the school to Kedzie, but I wasn't able to accomplish that. Now, that's all I can tell you.
We have community members here that will sit on a commission or
I would be happy
something to help you work with the gas company.
Happy to invite you to anything.
Let me just say this. Alderman Stone and I talked this morning. I know exactly what everyone here is saying. I've got a lot of calls at my house. Kedzie to the school. Kedzie to the school. That's it. We've talked to some people today that might own the property. I don't know who owns that property. I don't know because it was sold, and it was some people said it was a
bankruptcy involved.
in question bankruptcy. But I was making calls. Well, one second. But everybody here, and I think everyone understands one thing. There's no harm, like the Alderman said, like you said, to go to People's Gas, to go to the person who owns the private driveway, to go to the people that own other pieces of parcels there, to have an ingress and egress or out or in from Kedzie. And I think everyone agrees with that. I think the Alderman agrees. So I'll be helping the Alderman. If anybody would like to go to the Alderman and say they'd like to be part of that, just like he says a couple of people, we'll call the people up, and then we'll have another meeting and report back to the community what happened.
I have a lot more people in this room on your side if you did that.
Well, I understand that, but it's not like we're not trying.
I'd like to make a motion that we put a moratorium on the building for 2 months until we can come back and see where the thing is.
Well, there.
All in favor?
Rabbi, no matter what moratorium you say, there is a moratorium anyway because there will be no construction for the next 2 months. But it doesn't matter what your motion is. There will be no construction until March anyway, so it doesn't make any difference.
See, it passed, and we didn't have to vote, like Chicago. I'm sorry. Sorry, you're waiting in line. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I want to make a comment, even though I don't live in this particular block, but a comment I have, the area outline is comprised mostly of single-family homes, and a large percentage of the population, those homes, never even consider sending kids to public school. Now, you claim that all the school students will come from this area. It's very hard to believe, because even people who would consider it's single-family houses, almost no one send their kids to public schools. I mean, I wonder if this person, what's his name, Mr. Dispenser, has hard data, how many people from this particular area outlined on this card really send kids to public school. Because I believe that most of the kids would not come from this area.
Okay.
Yes. Just to clarify a little bit of the process, the board won't consider authorizing the actual attendance area boundary for the new school until about a year prior to the school's expected opening date, just so that we can be sure to include all of the most recent public school data. No, this is what you're looking at is very significant, because it's not difficult to propose a boundary for this school, given the number of students that live in the block groups that we've been analyzing for 5 years. So I just want to be clear, because I don't want people to think that this piece of paper is useless. It's not. It's fair. It's probably very close to what I would propose the board authorize. I just want to make sure that people don't leave this room thinking that the board has somehow decided that the boundary that you're looking at will officially be the boundary of the new school. We have to be very.
Students who go to public schools.
There
certainly are.
Yes. I mean, I can assure you that. Yeah.
Okay. Wait. You want me to go to the next one?
Let me say this to this last lady who just spoke. I think you also probably think that Winston Towers is the same as it used to be. Winston Towers is now not made up of when it used to be called Weinstein Towers. Winston Towers is not the same as it used to be. Some of you should look at the population of Winston Towers. It is no longer what you think it is. Many of the residents of Winston Towers are young people with children, and who are not Jewish.
The next person, please talk. Please, yes.
Okay. My name is Gittel Hesselberg. I live on Sacramento, a couple blocks south. For those of you who don't know me, I work on Pratt across the street from Boone. I see the traffic that goes on at peak times because I'm there looking out the window. At approximately the same time Boone gets out of school, S&C Electric, a few blocks down, also lets out their shift. Now, that doesn't cause a major traffic jam on Pratt. Nothing will. And there's not a major traffic jam. Yes, there's more traffic than there is during the non-peak periods. But there's not that much traffic that it's blocked. And only a small percentage percentage of that traffic is going to be diverted over to the school. Furthermore, I'm on the Boone Local School Council. I know how many kids go to that school, and I know that we have no place to put them. So if anybody else can find us a place where we can put the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children who need classroom space, I'm sure somebody will be happy to listen.
My name is Naomi Samber, and I live right near Boone. And I go by there when I leave at certain times in the morning, and this is a square block. So we've got four streets that they can access the school. And in the morning, if I go by at the same time the children are coming, it takes me an extra 10 to 15 minutes to get over to California. In the afternoon, they put stanchions up on the street to block certain streets off, and I have to go around and around. So that's the way it is. I live with it. But when I hear that it's going to take an extra 7 seconds to come around, that's just not the case.
Thank you. Next.
I live on North Shore, right in between the proposed school and Boone School. Every morning when I look out the window, there are 3 students that walk past my house to go to Boone, I'm assuming. So just in terms of logistics from this area going there, I'm sure there are other accesses also, but interesting perspective. What hasn't been really addressed is that the parking, even if there is an access from Kedzie, we're still talking only 30 spots. Speaking to people in Boone, there are 1,032 students, and they said there are approximately 100 staff members. Clinton said there were 1,300 students there, and there's approximately 100 staff members. So if we're trying to find parking for, let's say if there's a little bit less than 100 staff members, we're still talking about 40 to 50 people that will be having to find parking on these, again, local crowded streets. If you make them 2 ways, you're going to be taking away parking, not adding parking. And I haven't really heard an answer about that.
Wait.
Parking restrictions on Whipple and
Yeah, I mean, right where the school drop-off area is, you won't be able to park. But as far as the parking spaces are concerned, when we looked at the traffic study, we looked at the number of spaces that there were, and we looked at a full complement of staff using the parking spaces that there were. I made no allowances for any other cars not utilizing those parking spaces. They may well use the public parking, yes.
Is that study online? Is that on writing or online? Can we access that?
Pardon me?
Is your study online?
No, it's not.
Is it public record?
Yeah.
Do you have a website that you can go on and get the information? Okay. Well, I want to. If that's the last, maybe one more question. I guess we're going to have another meeting in about 3 weeks. We'll talk to the Alderman. We'll talk. Okay, but so about 3 weeks we'll have another meeting. Thanks. Go ahead, yeah.
Quick question. Totally away from parking. I don't live in the neighborhood. When you show the schematic of the fire lane access, we live in dangerous times.
I can't hear.
I'm sorry. We live in dangerous times. I'm looking at the schematic. Remember of the fire lane? Right there. Yes. In designing a fire lane, you're obviously thinking of disaster. So let's think worst case scenario. Let's say that something really bad happens, and as a result, the whole front of that school has collapsed. And as a result, that street is now inaccessible. You have only 2 entrances on the street that is now hypothetically inaccessible, and on top of that, the fire lane is what? 1/4 to 1/3 grass, which means it might be muddy, which means that if the fire trucks can get into that one street, which may now be in the midst of flames, if they do get in there, they may get bogged down in mud. why is there not access available in case of an emergency from one of the other three very long sides of that block? There's only one street. What I'm saying is, why is there not access for emergency vehicles on one of the other three sides of that block?
It's landlocked.
Well, okay. Here's the reply to your question.
The question I heard is, why isn't there fire access from any other point other than what's been designed on the site plan? It's because it's a built environment. There's buildings to the south, there's buildings to the north, there's People's Gas, which is, we've not been given any access to cross. Yeah. The fire department has stamped and approved this plan. They look at it from a variety of different aspects. And Department of Transportation for access. I am not sure of the specifics about the fire department review in terms of mass destruction. The Public Building Commission, we don't have a mass destruction review. We look at things, we have a code compliance officer who reviews it. You're talking about the street being gone.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Go the next question.
I live on Farwell, so I live close enough to matter when it comes to a number of these congestion issues. But the one thing that I want to hear about is there's a whole lot of planning that's about to take place because you're talking about construction beginning in 2 months. So the sensitivity of the community with trucks that are staging, very big trucks with lots of material, and we know there's no place for that already. I know you don't have the plans yet, and hopefully that's going to start. How can we get some transparency? We're going to see something about those plans because the biggest concern that I have is that people who don't live here and don't know the nuances of what's going on in the community when people are moving this way and that, there's no time for a traffic study that's going to give you answers about how people are moving around. Is there some way we can have some view, whether it's you have a website where we can see all the material, even this material tonight, that we can go and even respond and give some hopefully constructive insight so we can make sure we know what's going to happen and you can get some information from us that will help with some of that planning.
The probability is we'll stage them in an area where there are no residential areas. Where? And the area, of course, would be along Kedzie Avenue where there are no residents. North of Albion. North of Albion. You're talking about material.
No. All this stuff they're going to do. I want to know how you can make it transparent to us to go and be aware of what's happening. You know, I know that in other wards, for example, there's information. So we can be aware that something's happening. Ask if there's a phone number. Is there? Well, a phone number. This day and age,
call my office.
We can go to see all this
my office will be aware of it because I'll be meeting with the.
Would you be able to be proactive? Make it available to us, not have us pull it from
We're always proactive. You know, somebody here earlier said that they called my office and they didn't get an answer.
How about
Frankly, I don't.
Are doing the plan?
I don't
Will
believe
they be
it
able to give us access to their material?
There's always a construction number available from PBC, Public Building Commission. There's always a number that you can reach the construction site, and you can always call my office, and we respond to every question that's put to us.
How about Mr. Hunter's? Did you respond to Mr. Hunter? If you respond to every question, Mr.
We respond to every question. If Mr. Hunter says we didn't respond, I don't know who he called.
But the point of my question.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it because we respond to every call and have for 36 years.
That it shouldn't be handled on an individual response basis. The point is this is material that is important to all of us, and we could be helping you. So really I'm actually, with all due respect, Mr. Stone, I'm actually asking them how they can have material available to us.
Like I was saying earlier, I'll be working closely with the Alderman's office on every issue that's pertaining to this project. I'll be happy to give you my card if you have any questions that you would like answered. I'll be more than happy to answer them. And I will also.
On a website anywhere?
We don't want to go through the Alderman's office. He doesn't help us. We want to go through you.
You know what? This presentation will be on the website tomorrow on the PBC pbcchicago.com. I'm sorry. www.pbcchicago.com. So all this will be on the website tomorrow.
Okay.
But I'll be happy to give you my card, sir. If you have any questions, feel free. And my personal cell phone number is on that card.
Great. Cool.
Okay.
I want to thank you all for coming tonight.
Alderman Stone?
One more question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jennifer Albaum, and okay, I just wanted to say, Leona, thank you very much for bringing a Silver Leads project to our area. I think it's really great, and if people aren't aware of this, it's part of the whole environmental, recycling, renewing, reusing. It's really a wonderful thing, and I'm sure that they've put a lot of consideration into how to plan this correctly. So thank you for that. If you could make it platinum, please go ahead. Platinum would be the highest, platinum gold. Silver's great, though. Thank you. And then I just wanted to ask a question. I think it was Mr. Kelly. There's a 5% community hiring. I just want to know, is that a minimum or a maximum?
That's a minimum.
A minimum. So if people come and you get a lot of people who want jobs here, what would be the maximum?
It's based upon the labor schedule and the openings. Mr. Hightower and myself will sit down with the general contractor. They'll give us a construction schedule and what they project as the openings for this particular project. Particularly people with experience. That's why I mentioned the other programs for people who have an interest in working in the construction trade, but we will take application from 4 to 6 weeks before construction starts, go through that database. The general contractor has an incentive to hire people from the community because it's included in their contract. We're not going to say every single person who applies is going to get a job. Primarily people who have some previous experience, and based upon those skills and the openings is how we will fulfill that target.
And how will the jobs be advertised?
How will the jobs be advertised? Well, there is going to be a sign at the construction site. We are also, like I said, we have these flyers that are going to be at the Alderman's office, and we'll provide some for the community organization. But since the hiring on site is geared towards the local community, we want to make the advertisement within the West Ridge area.
Okay, thank you. Well, Alderman Stone, I realize that this school has been a complicated project for you, and I know you've been working on it for years. So with all the other things that people brought up tonight, I would like to just thank you for bringing jobs to the community, because it is a tricky project. But at this time, having jobs in the community has got to be really a priority for people who need those jobs. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
One more.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a Chicago public school teacher. I live right over here in Richmond. I very much believe in, obviously they employ me, so I'm very happy. But I would just like to point out to the community and to the system that JCB over there was put in, and it's a school, and it also probably a little bit more than that. And there is a parking lot that's probably over 30 spaces, but I don't know how many people have driven by that during the school day. But all of Pratt is completely covered all the way down past the new house, and all of the other way towards the new is covered with parking, and they have over 30 spots. And they have less kids because it's a residential school. I've worked at JCB in a previous life, and they have less kids than 900 kids. They have less teachers than what you're proposing in their school, and they don't have enough parking.
They have
and they
70
have the red
spots.
bus route from the Lincoln bus. The kids are busted, but not the teachers, and not all the staff that works there. And they drive. I'm telling you, you come here during the day.
That's a specialized school.
JCB has 70 spots, Alderman Stone.
They're a specialized school for special students. I mean, you got to take that into consideration too.
They still won't have as much staff as this school.
Well, in any event,
One more question.
Go ahead.
First of all, and we do want to thank you for coming out here, despite what some sentiments that you might have had. We know you do work for us, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So we want to thank you for coming out here. Okay. Speaking of all, we know you have a lot on your plate. The school needs a place. I don't think anybody in the community and anybody raised their hand is fundamentally opposed to the school. The school's got to go up. have to have space. We know you had no other place to put it. All we want to leave with this as an action item tonight is a commitment by you and the people who you came, and thank you all for coming out, a commitment just to work a little bit on access, on parking, so we can alleviate the problems, so we can coexist together.
Well, let me assure you this. Number one, on access, I will continue to work on access. I was working on access as late as noon today, but I will continue to work on access. I told you I extend an invitation to at least 2 or 3 of you to come with me when I meet with People's Gas. On parking, I really can't work with you. That's really up to the board and up to PBC. They have a limited space. Actually, 2.7 acres, which is what they have, is less than their prototype. Their prototype is really 3 acres. So they're working with very close quarters on the site. So that's why, under the zoning code, they're supposed to have like a 3 for 1, and they have 2 for 1 on the parking. So they're really over the code requirement. Now it's easy to say let's give them more, but they meet the requirement and exceed the requirement. They should find more, but we'll see. It's like in residential parking. Our residential parking should be at least 2 spaces for every unit, and I know because I was on the Reform Zoning Commission, and that's what I was demanding: 2 spaces for every unit, and I was willing to settle for 1.5 spaces, but in the meantime, the code only requires 1, which is totally insufficient. And I agree, and I say you're right. There should be more than 30 spaces, but they have a limitation of space. So but that's up to them to find additional space. I only hope that they can do so. But they'll probably have to do it off-site, and that may require acquiring additional land. In any event,
Thank you.
That may be one of the subjects that we may talk to Public Building Commission on. Not Public Building, to People's Gas about. See if we can acquire some additional land from them. But in any event, I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. Let me assure you that I take your criticism. I'm used to criticism, so I take it as constructive, and I take it in that vein. I've been around a long time, and I'm used to criticism, so it's taken in that vein, and I thank you for all coming out on a really cold night. And we will continue to try and work with you and not against you. Let me assure you that's our intent, but we do have a difficult problem here, and we're trying to solve it. And let me assure you it's our intent to work with you, not in any way try and hurt you in any way. Thank you very much for coming out.